Okay, thanks, Nicola. Hopefully you can hear me and see my slides. So thanks very much. My name's Ivana Hayes, and I'm here today to talk to you about the requirements for handling complaints and reporting to the regulatory authorities. My presentation will focus on the manufacturer's post-market surveillance system, the requisite documentation, and the elements subject to vigilance reporting. So I'm going to start my presentation with a diagram to hopefully help illustrate how post-market surveillance and vigilance fit into the overall life cycle of the product. So post-market surveillance, very briefly, it's the responsibility of the manufacturer, and while I'll explain it in a little more detail in the following slides, it's essentially how the manufacturer gathers and evaluates data on their product once it's been placed on the market, and where necessary takes corrective actions to improve the safety and performance. So vigilance then, it's the system of notification and evaluation of serious incidents and field safety corrective actions. And finally, market surveillance, which refers to the activities taken by the competent authority in monitoring devices on the market to review their compliance with the medical device legislation. Competent authorities may undertake proactive and reactive work, inspections in manufacturing facilities, or desk-based technical or clinical assessments. So then starting with post-market surveillance. So essentially the MDR requires that manufacturers will conduct post-market surveillance, which it's covered under Articles 83 to 86 of the MDR. This is how you would review the experience gained from the use of the device and take all necessary corrective actions. A formal post-market surveillance system involves active and systemic collection, analysis, and interpretation of data or other information about a marketed device. It's performed over the lifetime of the product, and the information may be used to update the benefit risk profile and/or the clinical evaluation. Through this evaluation, the need for corrective and preventive actions may be identified. This could lead to changes to the device design, manufacturing, instructions for use, or labeling, or other changes. The post-market surveillance system, as covered by Jenny in the previous presentation, it's an integral part of a quality management system. So as part of the manufacturer's post-market surveillance system, two key documents must be developed, and they should be included within the technical documentation for the product. The post-market surveillance plan, it sets out the plans for collection and use of all available information and sets out methods and protocols for fulfilling obligations of post-market surveillance set out in Articles 83, 84 and 86. The manufacturers then of Class 1 devices, they shall prepare a post-market surveillance report. This summarises the results and conclusions of the post-market surveillance data gathered as a result of the post-market surveillance plan, together with rationale and description of any preventive and corrective actions taken. The report, it's updated as needed and made available to the competent authority upon request. For Class 2A, 2B and 3 devices, manufacturers must compile a periodic summary update report. The legislation is more prescriptive in what the PSUR or periodic summary update report should contain and how frequently it needs to be updated. So this is every 1 to 2 years, depending on the risk class of the device. So now just to explain the post-market surveillance plan in a little more detail. The post-market surveillance plan should set out proactive and systemic processes to collect and analyse information concerning serious incidents and field safety corrective actions, non-serious incidents and data on undesirable side effects, information from trend reporting, relevant literature databases and/or registers, information including feedback and complaints provided by users, distributors and importers, and publicly available information about similar medical devices. Adequate systems need to be in place to log all complaints and feedback in relation to a device, and complaints should be reviewed for relevance to safety by categorizing, triaging, and recording any decisions. So for example, a customer feedback that a device makes a squeaking noise, which is not related to safety, may not require reporting, but it should be documented, and it could or may lead to taking a product improvement. Another example where an ankle brace breaks well in use, that may have an associated harm or potential harm, and which may then be fed into the Vigilance system, or if not deemed reportable, it should at least be reviewed according to the post-market surveillance processes and where necessary, corrective actions taken. So the data collected under a post-market surveillance system, it helps address important questions on the safety and performance of a device and often results in improvements in the device design and manufacture. And just continuing on then, the post-market surveillance plan, it should also detail methods and tools, protocols, processes to assess the data. So it should allow correct characterization of the performance of the devices and a comparison to similar other products on the market. It should have suitable indicators and threshold values to allow continuous reassessment of the benefit risk analysis and risk management. It should set out methods to investigate complaints and analyze market-related experience collected in the field. It should include methods to manage trend reports, including protocols to be used to establish any statistically significant increase in the frequency or severity of incidents. It must cover the means for communicating with competent authorities, notified bodies, economic operators and users, and it must reference the procedures in place to comply with post-market surveillance obligations. So it should cover the systemic procedures to identify and initiate a corrective measure, including effective tools to trace and identify devices where CAPAs are necessary, and plans for post-market clinical follow-up studies if being completed, and justification where they're not applicable. Post-market clinical follow-up studies, they have the aim of confirming the safety and performance throughout the expected lifetime of the device. This is particularly important if it's a long-term implantable device. Then the periodic summary update report, which is relevant for the class 2A, 2B and 3 devices. It's where you'll document the results and conclusions of the planned analysis, whether corrective preventive actions were taken, any resulting changes to the benefit risk evaluation, outcomes of post-market clinical follow-up studies, the accurate information on the sales and usage of the device during the evaluation period. And as previously mentioned, there's different frequencies for submission based on the risk class of the device. So this would either be annually or every 2 years. Just to mention then, the Medical Device Coordination Group, MDCG, have issued a guidance, and it's MDCG 2022-21, and that has further information on the periodic summary update report. Then just moving on to Vigilance. So to begin, what exactly is Vigilance? It's a system for monitoring the safety and performance of a medical device after they've been placed on the market, and it involves notification and evaluation of serious incidents, periodic summary reports, trend reports, and field safety corrective actions. I'll explain each of these in more detail in the following slides, but essentially the Vigilance system aims to minimise the risks by identifying device issues early and taking necessary actions, and it's covered under Articles 87 to 92 of the MDR. There's two important definitions to be aware of in understanding which type of complaint or incident should be reported to the regulatory authorities. An incident means any malfunction or deterioration in the characteristics or performance of a device made available on the market, including use error due to ergonomic features, any inadequacy in the information supplied by the manufacturer, and any undesirable side effect. Just to note, incidents are not reportable to the competent authorities under Article 87.1. However, they must be documented and considered within the manufacturer's quality management system. Whereas then a serious incident, it means any incident that directly or indirectly might have led or might lead to any of the following: a death of a patient, user, or other person, temporary or permanent serious impairment in a patient's, user's, or other person's state of health, or a serious public health threat. So I'll just explain more about reporting criteria. So the ABC criteria are useful when considering if a particular incident is a serious incident. So first, under A, an incident has occurred. That is, something has happened where the device has not worked as it should, or it did not meet the expected performance. An example under A could be a device breaks during use, although it was handled correctly in accordance with the instructions for use. To decide if it meets criteria under B, then the incident must have directly or indirectly led or might have led to a serious outcome. And finally, the last criterion under C is that there is a causal relationship or suspected possible relationship to the use of the device. In some cases, that will be very obvious. Others, you may need a clinical opinion to decide. Any incident that meets all three of the basic reporting criteria A to C is considered a serious incident and must be reported to the relevant competent authority. The relevant competent authority is the competent authority of the country where the incident occurred. I guess in complex situations, you should presume that there is a causal relationship with the device. So err on the side of caution if there is a doubt there. So then just to explain as well the difference in the reporting timelines. So the MDR sets out timelines for reporting incidents based on the severity of the incident. For serious incident, the timeframe for submitting initial incident report is immediately, but no later than 15 days from the manufacturer first becoming aware. For a death or unanticipated serious deterioration in the state of health, this is no later than 10 days, and where it's a serious public health threat, this is no later than 2 days after becoming aware. Well, there may be cases where causality or harm is under review. It's important that in case of the doubt, it's required that you still adhere to the reporting timeframes for that type of incident. So how and who do we report the incidents to? So under the MDR, it states that serious incidents are to be reported to the relevant competent authorities. And this is the competent authority of the country where the incident occurred. There's a template form available from the European Commission, as you can see there on the left, which includes all the relevant fields. And this is used by all manufacturers and competent authorities within the European Union. A field safety notice, or sorry, a field safety corrective action is an action then that the manufacturer takes to prevent or reduce the risk of serious incidents in relation to a device that's already on the market. FSCAs may involve a product removal, a recall, a field modification, software updates, instructions for use updates, or user training, or a combination of these. A field safety notice then, it's a communication that informs customers or users of an FSCA, and this must follow a template as well and must include information relating to the device and manufacturer identification, reasons for the field safety corrective action, associated risks for the patient, user, or other person, and indicate all the actions to be taken. The draft FSN, where possible, should be submitted in advance to the coordinating authority. So the coordinating authority for a field safety corrective action is usually the competent authority of the country where the manufacturer or the authorized representative is based. That's linked to where the manufacturer has their location, and they would be coordinating for the rest of Europe. I guess communicating the field safety corrective action, the MDR requires that the FSCA report and the FSN are submitted to competent authorities of countries where the affected products have been sold to, and also the country where the manufacturer's authorized rep or manufacturer is located. There's also an approved template form for submitting details of an FSCA. This is seen here on the right. Besides the FSN, so the Field Safety Notice and the Field Safety Corrective Action Report. There are other background documents that will be needed to support the decision. So for example, before it has been decided to conduct a field safety corrective action, a health hazard evaluation which details the anticipated risk of patient or end user harm should be performed. A corrective and preventive action CAPA should be triggered to investigate the root cause, and corrective actions required. It also needs to be factored in how you intend to track the reconciliation and ensure that the information gets to the relevant customers. Use of a customer acknowledgement form is recommended in these cases. And finally, I think Jenny mentioned it as well in her presentation, that it's important that you have a defined measure of effectiveness for your field safety corrective action and your CAPAs. Okay, then the periodic summary reporting. This is another type of vigilance report, and it's a way in which manufacturers can agree with their competent authority to submit many reportable incidents in one report. This method, I guess it must be pre-arranged with the individual competent authorities in advance, as it's usually in the case where incidents have been linked to a known issue or field safety corrective action and the root cause is well understood. So it's not the standard approach. Then trend reporting. This is a type of vigilance report where manufacturers have identified an increase in frequency or severity of incidents that are not serious incidents. So ordinarily these are incidents that are not reportable, but since their increase, they could have a significant impact on the benefit risk profile of the product or could lead to unacceptable risks and safety. They are to be submitted to the coordinating CA in the form of a trend report. So there is a form for that as well. I guess going back then to the main purpose of the vigilance system being to minimize the risks involved in use of medical devices, the key areas where competent authorities will have an impact is in closely monitoring the manufacturer's risk evaluation of the issue and ensuring they have considered all the potential risks, in coordinating with other member states to share information on serious incidents, and sharing responsibilities in reviewing appropriateness of FSCAs. We also encourage our users in Ireland to report incidents, and we facilitate receiving these directly through our online form, email, or over the phone in some cases. We have also a national database of vigilance cases which we analyse and detect signals from. So then, I know it was mentioned on, I think it was Niamh's presentation about registration on UDAMED. So UDAMED is an integral part of the implementation of the medical device regulations, and there is a module under development for vigilance and market surveillance, which will allow for automatic transmission of vigilance communications and forms such as serious incidents, FSNs, PSURs. So there is some guidance at the moment, so there's an MDCG guidance to advise how these communications should take place until UDAMED goes live. Okay. And thank you for listening. I'll finish my presentation here by referring to the guidance on topics of vigilance and market surveillance, and including the relevant templates as well, which are available from the European Commission website. Thanks.